Yes, I am in very, very late. Oh gosh, it's been quite a time. As you see, I have done some things to make it a bit more atmospheric. I hope you enjoy that. Um, and there will be more when I turn the camera around. You will see more atmospheric things going on. But this is oceans deep woo. We do the deepest woo. We do all kinds of woo, every kind of woo you can do. And tonight we have something special planned for you. Tonight I'm going to tell you some spooky stories that happened to me, my family, and my friends before I make them into videos individually. I'm going to premiere a few here, so you get to hear it first. Hey, Ben. Hey. Love you too. So, remember, this is tips, tricks, and hacks for playing that massively multiplayer, total immersion, holofractal VR learning game matrix called Life on Planet Earth. With that, I'm going to turn the camera around. So, hang on a minute. Get a little more atmospheric, give you something to watch here besides me. Whoops. That's very professional. So professional. I do have that kind of a witch cackle, don't I? Okay. Hope it translates well. Now let's see. Here we go. Here's the scene I have set for you. Oh, you can't really see the dragon very well, but he's there. And the smoke is seeping down. And I just wanted to show off some of the fun stuff here. So we have the dragon, my batty lamb here, some of my lovely crystals, and of course the ever-present candle that dripped wax all over my stuff the other time. We're still working on getting that all solved, but hey, it's all good. So yeah, we people kind of have to get the word, so I'm kind of gonna amble until they do. But I decided, oh, and Ben is here. My gosh, Ben. If you're here, then I'm thinking it might be a good time for you to tell your spooky story. Would you be into that? Hey, James Ortiz. Either tonight or tomorrow, maybe. Sometime this week, I'd love you to come on and tell your story, Ben. What happened to you? What happened when you got here, when you came here, and how your life has changed? I think people need to hear that. But I hope you're feeling a lot better than you were when you came last time, Ben. And James Ortiz is in. Always good to see James. Okay, so showing off my dragon backflow there. I just love this. I don't know. I'm like a kid with these things. I could sit and watch this thing. I don't know how well it's showing up on camera. I wish I could get it to the landscape instead of the portrait so you could see it all at once. Because it really looks very pretty from my, there's crystals. Wanted it to be nice and atmospheric for tonight. And tomorrow we're going to have atmosphere. You feel really good, Ben. Well, I'm very glad to hear that. That's the kind of thing you want to hear. And who knows, maybe Cowboy will even join us. The chair is all set for him there. You know how our little kitty cat is. I'll show you some of my tools here. This is a sword, and quite often a sword. It's a symbol, of course, not used really to stab anybody, but it's usually used to draw, to cut cords, to do things like that. It's a focus. All of these things are focus. In themselves, do they have a power? Well, in that they all have a type of consciousness, even the stones, in that they're made with a consciousness. But the power behind all of this is your intent. Now, some people have different opinions of that, and that's absolutely fine. But in my world, we're divine. God is in us. And so we are powering this. Here's a wand somebody made me a long, long time ago. Thought I would show you some of my things that I don't get to show people. So I'm tripping on the dragon and burner. So, Night you. Well, that's wonderful, Ben. Ben feels very clear-minded right now, he says. I'm glad to hear that. You know, I think these things trouble people, and we are taught not to believe that it can be that way, not to believe that it's real. You know, science is trying to convince us that nothing exists. We're not even sure we exist, right? We're not even sure we're conscious. But I'm telling you, everything's conscious. Consciousness is in everything. Even things we don't understand very well. And see, that's the problem, is once we understand the nature of consciousness a little better, we realize how so many strange things can happen. Because people are really powering a lot of this. Live beings are really powering this stuff. Some of it can be ancient, of course. Some things are put in place anciently, but many things people do with maybe the assistance of other consciousnesses. Some of us call angels, and some of them are more like angels, some of them more like demons, some of them more like just disembodied entities. And all these things exist. All kinds of things exist. So, you know, there are many, many attempts trying to deny that these things exist is ridiculous. You know, just because you cannot explain it scientifically yet doesn't mean it doesn't exist, because for a long time, ether was considered to not exist because they didn't have sensitive enough instruments to measure it. But then later, when they got better instruments, they found that indeed the ether does exist. That's real. So it went from being unreal to real pretty much overnight because science decided it was so. But that's how ridiculous it is. If everybody's experiencing one, once again, if everybody's experiencing something all over the world, if people are having this, a situation all over the world experiences, then something is going on. And it's absolutely silly to try and tell everybody that nothing's going on. Hey, Les, how are you doing, Les Hins? So with that, I'm going to tell you some things that happened in my life, because I had quite a few things, and some of them you haven't probably heard, and some of them maybe perhaps you have. But some of them I don't think I've told yet. And let me just, while this thing is burning, it won't be burning very much longer. I think I'll just focus on the dragon here for a little while. When Black Dragon comes in, he'll probably enjoy that. Speaking of which, yeah, back working the night shift. Does that mean we're going to see you from time to time? Because we miss you, Les. Hey, Black Dragon is in. Okay. So the dragon backflow incense burner is going. So I'm going to start with when I was very, very young. I'm going to start with some things from my earlier days. When I was a kid, I always wondered about some things. My parents were not exactly typical, but then again, whose parents are typical, right? I mean, what is typical? But really, I think I have mentioned before, but as a kid, very young, I began to read. I also spoke very young. It kind of freaked my mom out when I think I was 6 months old. I think the story goes I was 6 months old. We were watching something on TV. It was like a war drama. And I turned to her, and in a complete sentence, because I never spoke baby talk, I said, yeah, I did that. And she looked at me and said, what? What did you say? She was so surprised. And I actually remember the incident. I said, I was one of those. I was a fighter. I did that. Okay, so yeah, I have mentioned this before. So basically, she had to tell everybody those were my first words. So my first words were attempting to tell my mother that I had a previous life. Fighting a war. Not exactly the first words you expect your kid to say. I guess, according to my relatives, there was no goo-goo or gaga or any kind of dada or anything. It was just all of a sudden complete sentences. Don't ask me how that happened. I think I was observing quite a while for like 6 months and then just suddenly decided to say something. But yeah, that was one of the family stories, and there used to be a picture that I don't have anymore of me that kind of commemorates that. When you were 6 months old, you almost died from pneumonia, Black Dragon. Okay, so right from the get-go, I wasn't your typical kid. And my mother would say this to me quite often. She would say, "You're not quite like any kid I ever had to take care of." Which is really weird because I'm her kid, you know? She's like, I've known a lot of kids, but boy, I haven't. This is the first one like you, you know. Um, and it just happens to be her own child. So, well, sorry about your luck, I guess. Um, hey, Pam. Pam, I am. So, you know, what an introduction. Later, as I started to walk around and do things, one thing I noticed was all this big stack of magazines under my dad's bed that were, I've mentioned this too, that were things like Fate magazine and other metaphysical and paranormal magazines. Well, I started reading very young. I mean, I got bored easy. I started reading young, and it wasn't very long before I was sneaking my dad's paranormal magazines and reading them and finding them very entertaining, very interesting. But at the same time, a lot was going on. We went to, we had originally, I was going to we were going to a different church, but then my mother discovered Catherine Coleman's church, and we started going to Catherine Coleman's church, and she was a faith healer. So, you know, every week I saw faith healings being done. Now, people really would get better, and you can argue as to why. You can say it's God, you can say it's self-fulfilling prophecy, you can say it's whatever your explanation is. People did get better, and some people did, and some people didn't. My father had some complaints and conditions, and so did my mother. So they were going, hoping to get healed. And my mother did get healed of one of hers. And so my phone is overheating and will close in 20 seconds. Look, if my phone closes down, Well, that was fun, wasn't it? Hi, Ann Palmer. Hi, YJ. That was fun. Chrome closed because it was overheating my phone. That was strange. It doesn't usually overheat my phone, but what can you say? It's Halloween. Wow. So anyway, can you hear me now? Are you seeing me now? Or am I coming in? Hello, hello. Yes? Okay. Please consider, here I'm going to do this. Please consider a donation so I can get a new phone. Okay. If not, it's okay. I still love you. Oh, that was weird. Yeah, it was. No, I'm glad to see you're all still here. If it happens again, I'll do the same thing. But yeah, my phone got very hot. Hmm. I don't know what a Bosco stick either. Yeah. So, Houston, we had a problem. Yeah, we did. Oh, hey, Ann Palmer, how you doing? Um, okay, so basically, I think we stopped with me reading my dad's paranormal magazines. Meanwhile, what was happening? We were seeing a faith healer. We saw people get healed by a faith healer. I saw that on a pretty regular basis. One of the other things that happened was because I was a singer, I was in the children's choir, and I was up there with her every Christmas and sometimes on Easter. So, but definitely every Christmas they had us up there singing. So I was up on stage with her on a regular basis. So this is how these things became kind of normal in my life, kind of accepted. However, I realized I could not tell my friends or people at school because they would think I was really weird, which I am. But back then, being weird, of course, was not cool. Artsy Ann. I love I love how you just emoji the heck out of everything. Yes, feed the dragon. Don't forget to feed the dragon plenty of bacon. Okay? Feed him some for me because I'm busy working the controls here. Bosco. Bosco was a chocolate mix, was a chocolate milk mix when I was a kid. Anyway, so it became not unusual to see things happen without by non-physical means. So it really came as no surprise when I would see people that weren't physical, and I had invisible friends, and of course my parents acted like parents mostly act when your child talks about invisible friends and kind of humored me for a while, but when it was convenient, but for the most part, just kind of wrote it off. Um, um, that's okay. No, sorry for the no. I love the emojis. I love them.
They're great. No, that's why we call you Artsy Ann. Okay, Ann? Keep going with the emojis. It's cool. Um, it was kind of strange that my phone just started. What I got was a message that your phone is about to close down because Chrome is making it overheat. So Chrome is about to close. So then Chrome closed, and sure enough, I felt my phone, and it was hot. I had to wait until the thing cooled down to get back on Chrome again to be in here because StreamYard is running on Chrome right now. But yeah, my batteries drained fast the other night. That was a different issue. So I'm putting some protection around the phone, and hopefully this won't happen again, just in case something is getting at my phone. But I wouldn't put it past somebody to be pranking on Halloween, to be putting out something to prank people on Halloween Eve. So Halloween Eve. Yes, it's nice. It's nice to see it because I think I only have 10 more people and I've got 300 whole people. I know 300 doesn't sound like much, but it sounds like a lot to me because I don't do a lot of advertising or anything. Hey, Bomber. Yes, blessed Samhain. The veil is thin. Honor the ancestors. Yes, I am. Kind of. Oh, wow. Guys, I just got tinnitus. It's like it's going through my head. What's going on? This severe, it's not really tinnitus, it's a sound. I think I'm getting a communication of some sort. Well, I won't find out till later what it was, probably. But I do feel kind of funny. Anyway, what else was happening in my life back then? Well, as a child, I had this very strange thing that happened as soon as I got into school. I noticed it more. I would dream the next day's life. I would dream a scene of the next day's life the night before, which means I would dream something at night, go into school, and it would happen that day. And after a while, and this happened all the time, and after a while, this was driving me up a freaking wall. I didn't know what was going on. And so I, of course, prayed a fervent prayer. Please let these dreams stop. I don't want to know what's going to happen the next day. I don't need it. It was mundane stuff. It wasn't even anything interesting or fun or amazing. It was just a prophetic dream about a boring day. And we knew my dad had prophetic dreams because his friends spoke of that often. One of them even made one of his friends rich. If my dad had gone in on the same deal, he would have been a rich man. And he always talked about how he was sorry he didn't do that. But yes, one of his friends actually got quite wealthy from one of his dreams. So this was talked about quite a bit. Another thing that was going on, well, like I said, there was a lady that would come in my room on full moons. My window was facing the moon, it was facing south, and the moon would come in my window every night. And with the full moon would also come a lady in white. who would come and talk to me. She was very motherly. Her features were kind of indistinct, so I couldn't really see much of what she looked like, except she was all in white and female shaped. And she would tell me things about, we talked a lot about things like the weather and why it had to be that way. And we talked about, I don't know, all kinds of things like, I don't even remember all we talked about. A lot of times she'd just sit there on my bed and I could just felt her there. And it was like she was telling me things and I didn't always remember what she told me. So now, oh yeah, Bomber says she had dreams like that were just weird dreams that of the day before, of the day after. Yeah, useless prophetic dreams. It was weird. Um, but it was real. It was always real. This was weird. Um, so here I am, a kid, saying, please don't give me any more of these useless prophetic dreams that don't really tell me anything. It just makes me wonder if I'm really experiencing something or if I'm dreaming. I mean, because when it would start happening, I'm like, am I still dreaming or is this happening? So I remember I would consciously try to change it. Um, just so that it wouldn't be the same dang thing happening. Because it was up. So those dreams went away, to be replaced by other dreams that were much worse. These dreams were not prophetic. These dreams were nightmares. So I started having a lot of nightmares as a kid. And these nightmares were not about anything on this earth. They were not about anything on this earth. They were about all kinds of things. Now, the thing that really stands out, I will tell you some of the things that stand out the most because I can't remember, of course, every single one. But the one that what? You're getting a muscle spasm in the right leg. Never had it. It's where you were stabbed in the military. Yeah. Hmm. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, here goes Bomber prescribing, or we can't say prescribing. She isn't prescribing anything. She's just making anecdotal suggestions. Um, let's see. Maybe it's trying to tell you something. Sometimes these things show up again to tell us something. So maybe you're getting rid of something from that time, Black Dragon. I notice that when I'm purging things, um, when I'm purging hurts from incidents, a lot of times the area will hurt again, just like when I injured it the first time, like my broken leg, like getting kicked in the shins, like, a lot of things. Hmm. So, yeah, remedies. James Ortiz. Everybody wants to help everybody in here. I just love you guys. Um, But yeah, it could be that um, you're replaying it because you're going to get rid of that, because you're dumping it. That happens quite a lot. And I am seeing that in a lot of my friends. If you find yourself replaying some kind of pain that you've had in the past, your body's probably trying to get rid of it, because that's the time we're in right now. We're trying to dump all that pain and fear. So if you are sort of reliving fearful things in your mind or something like that, that may be what's actually going on, and it may actually be a positive thing. So it may not be negative, especially if it's something in the past. How do you mend a broken heart? Hi, Pam. I'm sorry, Pam. Yeah, I don't think Arnica will mend a broken heart, though. A puppy, a kitty cat, a kitten. Yeah. I think my cats always mended my heart. My cats mended many a broken heart. Yeah. They're really good heart healers with the purring. They get all purry and they just want to be loved. And then it's like it opens your heart up to love. It did that for my mom after her husband passed. She didn't want animals, she didn't want pets, she didn't want anything. But when I brought a cat in and she started interacting with the cat, I heard her saying, but she didn't know I was around. But I heard her telling the cat, "You're here to open my heart back up, aren't you?" And she would hold the cat like a baby doll and pet it, you know, hold it like a baby. Um, it really did her a lot of good. I don't know if that would work for you, but cats kind of have that baby energy. They can be big babies. Um, the other night when your phone kept dying on and you would try to meditate while your phone was charging, and you saw your inner self trying to break out of the aura. Hmm, interesting. We're going through changes. We are. What is kintsugi? Kintsugi. I don't know what that is. But anyway, maybe we'll get an explanation of that. Anyway, so now I'm having nightmares. And I'm not having normal nightmares either. I'm having nightmares of other places. I'm having nightmares of, you know what? The one that really surprised me, like I said, I'm going to only mention the ones that later on I was reminded of because somebody else mentioned something that reminded me of it. Okay. Can't right now. I'm on a live stream, bomber. It's only words, and words are all I have to take your heart away. Ah, and you know, when I had these nightmares, I would sometimes wake up screaming. And my parents didn't know what to do. They prayed. I prayed. Everybody prayed. Sometimes it would work. One that I remember when I was very young, I later saw, oddly enough, in a rock video. I'm not sure which video this was, but it was one by Tool. If you remember, Tool had some very weird, dark, odd videos, music videos attached to their songs. And Tool, Maynard is from Ohio. He actually owns a vineyard in Ohio. I think he still does. But what was shown in there was a portion where there was these insects. They're on some kind of alien world. There's these insects flying around. One lands on the person's hand, and a bump forms, and it opens up, and stuff happens. I had a dream like that. That was my dream. That was one of my dreams. I was scared of flying insects for the longest time because of this dream I had. If you run into that video, that was my dream. Trying to explain that as a kid, very weird, you know. There you go. The less hints way is put on heavy metal and smash stuff with a bat. There you go. That'll fix it for some folks, I guess. Yeah, epic claymation. I keep wondering, did the person who did that have a similar dream at some point? Was that really an alien place of some point? Does this place exist? It made a big bump on my hand that opened up and stuff flew out of it in the dream. It did that it was like this thing biting me in the hand did terrible things. Anyway, it was a terrible thing. It was just it scared the heck out of me. I can't remember much of that. I'm kind of glad it's kind of faded, that memory's faded. The other thing that I got some weird confirmation, I would have dreams of giant spiders, and I mean giant. This is why I had arachnophobia for a while. I don't really have it now so much. I can live, at my old place, I lived with many, many spiders in the place, even brown recluse. I wasn't afraid of them because I knew they'd already bitten me and they hadn't killed me. So you can't hurt me. You can't kill me. So why should I worry about you? Yeah, I did see brown recluse in my room, in my bedroom. They're webs hanging from the walls. You can tell they don't look like normal spider webs. I'm not going to go into it right now. For those of you who are creeped out by spiders, I will allow you to not know very much about it. Okay. I'll spare you. Let's see. Kintsugi is the Japanese art of putting broken pottery pieces back together with gold, a metaphor for embracing your flaws and imperfections. Yes, you know what? That's very cool. Always a party at my place, says Lesance. We also have critter snacks. Ah, yes. Okay, well. Whoa. You guys are awesome. Anyway, so that was one dream, and I'm like, is this a real place? When I saw that, it flipped me out. Of course, it wasn't for years later that I saw that, and it's like, wait a minute, I dreamed that. I also dreamed of giant spiders. Many years later, one of the people who claimed that she was in the secret space program sent to Mars that there were giant spiders on Mars. Now, you remember, supposedly, if you have checked into this, the secret space program took children who were gifted. They were looking for gifted children. Those are the ones they took. Which led me to wonder, because I would wake up from dreams of giant spiders. Later on, I got bit by the most deadly spider in Ohio and didn't die, and said, ah, okay, enough of that. Ooh. You catch them in a jar and put them outside. Yeah. So I know people, I've talked to people about that, and there's a woman who went into a coma and has never been right since after her bite. Me, I didn't even know what happened until afterwards, and then I read about what the bite looks like, what the symptoms are, and everything. It's like, oh shit, that was a brown recluse bite. Holy crap, I could have died. Good thing I didn't. I was sick as a dog for 4 days, so thought I was gonna pass on of being sick. I just thought it was the worst flu I'd ever had. So it was even back before Indigo Children, in fact, Black Dragon. I found out that that generation was called the Blu-ray children. They set the stage for the Indigos later on. So I was a Blu-ray back at that time. Now, the interesting thing is, later on, when I had my near-death experience, if you count that as being a restart, I would have been in the Indigo. It's almost like I'm setting it up for myself later on. I'm setting things up for my later version of myself. That's another thing I got a big laugh out of. So anyway, that also was very bizarre, because there was a point at which we were doing some kind of a healing, and I can't remember exactly what it was. It was something about the land needed healing. All of a sudden, I found myself speaking German. Now, I didn't know German. I was speaking German, though. It was very obviously German. I mean, everybody heard it. That sounds like German. I didn't know what I was saying, but whatever it was working. Uh, so, you know, I found I could do a lot of weird things like that. Um, Whoever was the German person who was helping out there, thanks. We still hang our hat on in MeWe, by the way, less hints. We leave our posts and stuff there to keep in touch with each other. Well, I know I go to other places too. I do. I've mentioned this before. I have mentioned this. I'm sure I do, because sometimes I even see news stories that kind of support what I was doing and where I was, and I recognize the scenery in the news stories the next day. So, well, one of the mods kindly put our MeWe, and once again, I am looking for some help with this. If our mods can please, if somebody can please make a little page of our links, and mail it to me, email it to me, so I can put it in MeWe, message me in MeWe, so that I can just copy and paste them and put them in every video in the description box so that people can find us if they want to. That would probably be really handy. Okay? Because I'm trying to be a little bit more professional about this. Although I don't know how professional I can really be. Um, so anyway, oh no, Bomber's telling a story about asking aliens to help you heal and thought they were ghosts. Well, forgot you asked for aliens. Yeah, you got to watch that. Oh gosh, that's the way it is. Yeah, I don't know how I ended up speaking German, but hey, um, there was a couple of times that I did that before I started speaking some language. Didn't realize, and it was all I could speak. I would be thinking in English and speaking in another language. And of course, that confused the person I was with. And then I would have to ask, come on, I got to speak English so they understand me. And then it would revert back to English. I don't know what was going on with that either. Um, yeah, I chat with some people on there. If we need to chat about something privately and don't want to use a phone or whatever, we chat on MeWe about it. So please come and visit our MeWe group. Anyway, um, one of the other things that happened when I was a kid is I would frequently wake up with nosebleeds. And sometimes it was quite bad. And my father, too. In fact, with my father, got so bad he almost died of it. They almost couldn't stop it at one point. And I mean, we did a lot of praying about that too, but it didn't stop. It took quite a lot to get that to stop. And even at that, most of my life, I had problems with my sinuses over it. It took me years. I think, in my late 30s, early 40s before I finally got the nosebleeds to stop. But by that time, and I mean, I'd have them off and on because it was like something was damaged in there. Um, Later on, I finally got them to stop. But for those of you who don't know, that can be one of the signs that you're abducted, is because one of the ways they would do it is they would put a tracker up in your nose, and they weren't very careful about it. Then they'd blank your memory of it, which might be why I had a lot of nightmares, and my father as well. The same thing was not going on with my mom. That's how I know that this was from my dad's side mostly. Other things were going on with my mom. Light mauve, your experiences are light mauve sepia toned. Interesting. Um, I've had them be various things, but I remember one particularly with my father after he passed. It was all in yellow. Sepia. It was very much sepia. So, it was there, definitely sepia, but it was the only one I remember being like that in sepia. So, anyway, this can be a sign that you're being abducted. Later on, I found out that quite possibly, quite probably, my brother that I never knew was probably a hybrid, one of those phantom pregnancies my mother had. A that's a whole. I have recounted that story here. Um, I'm not sure I'm going to recount that again tonight. But my mother had a pregnancy that didn't that was supposedly stillborn and had an enlarged cranium, and he never was buried, or we have no idea what happened to him. She had no idea what happened to him, and nobody asked any questions. And really, according to people like Whitley Strieber that have talked to many people who experienced this, that was pretty typical of these things. It was pretty typical that they just would take the child away. Nobody would know what happened. That, you know, they wouldn't even have a grave. When I asked my mother, was there a grave? No, there was no grave. What happened to him? Oh, they just took him away. Yeah, kind of weird. Well, that's okay. We're going to put some links in the description at some point. But MeWe.com, if you look up MeWe.com and you look up um, Galactic Woo Crew, that's us. Yeah, that's almost any social media. That's a good way to describe it, Bomber. Any social media if you don't want to be bothered by ads and shit. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, so what was happening then? Probably we were getting abducted. That's probably what the news, they probably botched it. They probably screwed around with both of us. We both had a tendency to have prophetic dreams. That was probably why. That was probably what my mother, on the other hand, was what? She was breeding EATs, babies, hybrids. Her story corresponds to that. Even her story about me, about having me, corresponds to it. I was probably tweaked before I was even born. Um, anyway, and there's a lot of this that goes on that people don't talk about. So, do I know everything about it? No. Have I had to piece it together over the years? Oh, yes. That's what I've been doing, is trying to piece these things all together. What the heck? How do you explain this life I've had? How do you explain this? Explain it to me, please, somebody. Uh, how this happened, right? It's kind of what it feels like. Anyway, so one of the other things that happened when I was a kid, I was out with my other friends. We decided we wanted to, I was a little older by this time. We decided we wanted to go to the Gorge Park. And there's an area down there, Mary Campbell Cave. And supposedly it was a quarry, and it was, all they tell you is a quarry, and it was Mary Campbell Cave because when she was abducted by Indians, they lived in that cave. Supposedly they lived in that cave, and it was water poured down from the walls of the cave, and you could get some clay and make pottery down there from because Ohio is mostly clay. So it was a great place for kids to hang out. And so when I was older, we all went down to the park, and on this particular occasion, it was getting near dark, and we knew we shouldn't be there very much longer. We'd have to head home. It was in the fall of the year, I think. Yeah, it was maybe August, September. Um, weather was still warm enough to be out there, but I suddenly felt a terrible pain in my back, like my back had been broken or something. And I stopped and I said, guys, I got to go home. All of a sudden, I've got this horrible pain in my back. And I had this sense that of this young man. And I couldn't tell anybody that, hardly. Um, I came back home and I told my parents, wow, I just, it was weird. All of a sudden, I got a pain in my back. I just stepped into this one area and got a pain in my back. And this is where, by the way, um, a lot of things happened there. This was very near the Edison Electric Company, which is probably very ancient, by the way. If you go by the mud flood stuff, the brickwork and everything on the Edison electric plant down there, it's Tartarian looking as hell. I'm just gonna tell you, it's definitely Tartarian. It was definitely there before the settlers came there. It's old. So that land, a lot probably happened there. So anyway, I went to sleep that night, had a dream about an amusement park and somebody falling and breaking their back. And so my father had a friend over, and it was like, we were out playing. I came back in, and I noticed that his friend was over and Dad was home. And I thought I'd say, hey, I had this weird dream. Um, you remember I came back with that hurt back? Well, it gave me this weird kind of dream. And I told him about how it isn't this weird that I dreamt that there was an amusement park there and somebody fell off and fell somehow and hurt his back and broke his back. And his friend who was sitting there with him said, "What did you say, an amusement park?" And I said, "Yeah, it was an amusement park. They had rides there and there were a lot of people walking around in my dream." And he said, "There was an amusement park there." And he just looked at my dad. Now, this was the same friend that my dad had given him the prophetic dream that had made him a lot of money. So he's now all of a sudden kind of interested and tells a story about how this was indeed an amusement park. And one of the reasons it closed down was because people got hurt. Um, but it wasn't very much publicized. I'm like, oh, so what I had seen might have actually been a scene from the past. And that might have actually been a ghost from the past, kind of letting me know he had broken his back there. Maybe he even died. But I never found out any more about that. And um, when I tried to get more information, they kind of clammed up about it after that one night. Okay, something is going on in the chat. Oh, geez. Okay, we're giving each other cures, remedies. Yeah, we're giving each other remedies. Okay, I'm going to let you guys do that. I will tell you that a lot of my problems went away when I stopped eating refined wheat and sugar. A lot of my problems have subsided. And that is the kind of stuff that cancer loves is, our food's weaponized. That sorry about your luck. Sorry about our luck. Until we can change things sufficiently, we must be careful what we eat because it's not really safe. They don't really sell us stuff to make us healthy. They sell us stuff to make us kind of sick because we're way more profitable that way. Um, that's my take on it. Uh, yeah, we're gonna have to take a minute out and send a little healing energy that way. Okay, healing energy. Okay, guys, get busy. We used to do this on the show all the time. Some, people would come in with whatever kind of injury and we take care of it. Maybe we're going to be doing that again. Yeah, always use universal energy, not your own energy. You never have to use your own energy to heal anything. You use universal energy. Right. Um, so basically, yeah, and that's what I saw Catherine Coleman doing. When I saw uh I would see at times there would be like something coming down on her and going out. So there was some kind of energy that would come through her when she'd heal. It wasn't her energy. It was, she, of course, attributed all to God, which was probably right. Um, I mean, I'm not going to argue. Uh, have you ever worked with any entities for healing? Spirits or entities for healing? Yes, angels. Angels, Jesus, God, you know, if that's what you're talking about. And Mother Earth herself, yes. And probably there might be some others that I haven't thought of, but thank you all that I can't think of right now. Um, so, mm. So anyway, I found out that the place had actually been an amusement park, and my dream had actually been true. And then after that, I think my dad and his friend kind of looked at me a little bit differently and kind of just noted it like, okay, kids got it. Kids got the dream thing going on, but never said very much more about it. And my mother would not let me talk about it because apparently my dad and his sister had been spiritualists and did the Ouija and the table tipping and all of that stuff and had gotten themselves into some kind of trouble, and which turned her very hyper religious, turned her religious because she was scared. Okay. Now, my dad had PTSD. When he would have his PTSD fits in the middle of the night, he would wake up into my eyes turn into kind of a monster. I think he had a partial possession. I didn't know it at that time. It wasn't there all the time, just when he was having these PTSD like outbreaks. And I remember using, asking for all kinds of religious help because it scared the living crap out of me. He would stand and it was like a Tourette's victim, how they swear and yell and everything, and then they don't remember any of it. That was what it was like a lot of times. And he'd slam the door open and threaten and fortunately not physical abuse. It was just it was mental torture though. Um, and he couldn't really help it. So And that was, I think, one of the reasons he was going to the faith healer, was hopefully to get rid of that. And unfortunately, that was not one of the things that was letting go of him. Why? I don't know. I'm not sure why some people would get healed of these things and others would not. It was one of those strange things. I never knew. And to the end of his life, until about 3 days before his death, he stopped having those fits. Oh, the big trees. Touching the big trees, they can help you heal. There was a tree. Yeah, that's true. That's true. There was, in fact, many times I went to the signal tree down in the Chukri area of the park that um, was near an oxbow, near a beaver dam. And it was a great big oak tree, the signal tree. The Indians had used it to mark a path between the rivers. And I would go down there quite often and hug that tree. I was a tree hugger. Yep, Black Dragon says deal with energy all his life. He's dealt with energy all his life. Learn to draw from the cosmos and give it back to the earth. Yes. 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 Yeah, walking barefoot always helps too, unless it's you can't walk barefoot under some conditions. But it was interesting how when I would get to the signal tree, it would feel warmer, even if it was snow. I would feel warmer around the tree. I miss that tree. But anyway, so that was another thing going on. It was pretty scary as a kid. Now, as a kid, I loved Halloween. It gave me a chance to be creative. I loved making costumes. I always wanted to either be a gypsy or something like that. Gypsy, a fairy, I forget what all I was. A vampire sometimes. I forget what all I was. But what I really wanted to be, and there were no costumes like this, was a superhero as a kid. What I really wanted to be was a superhero. Anyway, your favorite method of grounding, YJ. Favorite method of grounding is to lay in the river and let the water flow. Uh, I love water. Water is so healing. Water can be so healing. Even getting in the shower, I get in the shower and let it wash things away. I have before stood in the rain and let the rain wash things away. I have stood in bodies of water and let the water take it away. And you can actually do this with something that you need to clear. You can even use tap water and ask the water beings to take the negative energy away from it and to be recycled. And I was told always use cold water. Don't use hot water. But you can do that even with tap water. So living on the edge. Les says he likes living on the edge. Well, hey, if you like it, go for it. I lived on the edge just a little too much, I think, whether I wanted to or not. I got tired of it. Yeah, I'm supposedly a fire sign too, except since the new age, I'm now a Serpentarius instead of an Ophiuchus. I guess I'm actually both. According to standard uh, astrology, I'm Sagittarius, but according to the new stuff, I'm Ophiuchus or Ophiuchus, whatever, however you say it. Which means maybe I'm a special kind. I don't know. I can't be normal. I have to be different. You know that. So, one of the other things that happened was quite often I'd see ghosts. Sometimes I'd be sitting on a park bench and somebody would sit down next to me and I'd be having a conversation or somewhere. I would just be somewhere, like sitting at a park. And somebody would sit down to me and I would talk with them. And then when I would look again, they would be gone. And I got used to this. Okay. I got quite used to it. Now, what I didn't also understand was I didn't know what a Sasquatch structure was, but I have seen many of them in my life. I just didn't know what they were. Everywhere I went, and this explains why the woods were always so quiet and so safe. For me, the woods were safer than anywhere. For me, I felt safe in the woods. As soon as I'd get down there, I'd also feel like was breathing a lot more oxygen. And I wasn't a very physical kid. I couldn't run worth a damn ever. But when I got down in the Gorge Park with all the trees, I could run down that path. And it drove my parents completely crazy because they weren't used to me being that active. I could just run and run and run. You get me back up out of the park? Nope. Horrible at all sports. But you put me in a park, and all of a sudden, I could never figure it out. But yeah, we saw a lot of structures. Now I know they're structures. I didn't know what they were then. We just thought it was weird. We thought it was storm. It seemed to be odd that the rocks would be on top of the branches and the roots up in the air like that. That must have been a heck of a storm, right? That's an X structure. That's one of their structures. So basically, all through the Gorge Park, all through the Ohio Valley, there is Sasquatch stuff. And apparently, the reason I feel safe is they decided they liked me. They decided they liked me. And they still do, apparently. They didn't want to bother me, though. So it was only recently that I found out that they'd known me all my life and started giving me memories of all the times they'd been around that I didn't know. And all the times I'd seen one of their structures and didn't know what it was and questioned it. And they observed how I never went to touch it. I never went to do anything to it. I was always very respectful of anything I found in the woods. And that was part of the reason they liked me. I wasn't destructive, I wasn't harmful. I had good intentions out there and I felt wonderful. So, oh yeah, once you're and YJ says something that honestly, once you're hyper aware, being in a crowd for half an hour is like a normal person going to a thrash metal concert for a whole. I know. Crowds drive me crazy. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. We went to a crowded beach one time. I thought I'd lose my mind. I had to leave. I had to leave. I couldn't stand it. It was awful. It was like so much, so loud. It's like so many energies going all at once. Uh, we all have a lot of repeated traumas, yes. So, for those of you who can't see the chat, in the chat, they're all helping each other with exchanging different ways of healing different things, of healing each other, which you gotta love my crew. You gotta love them. Yep, different ways of meditation, different ways of healing, energy work, etc., etc. That's my crew. I love them. So the older I got, the weirder life got. Weirder, it just kept getting weirder. When I got a little older, I met a boyfriend, and I had a dream. I remember I did say it once on this show. I did relate the dream where, oh, that's right. Later on, I forgot. Later on, we were having a picnic at a park. We were having a group picnic, and one of my young male friends did actually fall down a hole. And this was the weirdest thing. Fell in a hole in the rocks or on the rocks somehow and hurt his back. And blame me because I am the one that made the picnic there, made the plans for the picnic there. I'm like, well, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have gotten hurt. I'm like, what the heck? This is the way this guy thought. I'm like, what the heck is your problem? Don't blame me because you weren't careful enough in the park. Why did I choose that park? For me, it was a no-brainer. I mean, for many people, it's a very easy trek. You were up climbing on the rocks like I was that one night, and that's probably what happened to him. He probably encountered the same energy, and that's what happened to him. Anyway, later on, I have talked about how I had a boyfriend. We were thinking about getting married. We were getting very close. And one day I woke up and saw a dead version of him in my bed, which looked up at me and said, "Hi, I'm Bob, and I'm dead." When I called his work, he didn't answer for a while, but I knew he couldn't always answer. So I waited until he called back finally. He said, "What's going on? What is it? What's so important? You're not supposed to call me at work." I said, "Yeah, I just had to make sure you were okay." He says, "Yeah, I'm okay. Why?" And then I told him, "Well, I'll tell you when you get back." And I told him, and he said, "No, I was fine. I don't understand that dream." Well, in this dream, after it looked at me and said, "I'm Bob and I'm dead," I jumped out of that bed. It was like I teleported out of the bed and across the room towards the door, where it materialized beside me again, touched me, felt something like, um, it felt like cold rubber glove filled with gelatin. I ran out the door. That's when when I finally calmed down, I called it. That's the call he got. Later on, I tried to explain this to him. I said, "God, I was afraid that you had actually died or something and were trying to get in touch with me." He said, "Nope, I was fine. I don't know what happened. Well, what happened, I am still not sure, but I know that once I became aware, I realized that there were many spirits walking through my parents' house. And my room was kind of like Grand Central Station. In fact, if I meditated on it, when I learned to meditate, I saw it was like many people came and went. It was like there was a portal there. I think there was a portal in my parents' old place. There was definitely stuff going on in the attic and in my room. But, you know, as a kid, if you grow up with that, you don't really think it's anything weird. You just soon learn you can't tell anybody about it. Lately, Les Hin says he's been getting hit with waves of rage energy, almost like a bloodlust type of feeling. Interesting. Well, I do want to say that is possible. There are probably people projecting this, trying to start something. It seems like they're always trying to start something. And remember, we're about to have an election. I think this is something that is attempting to happen. It could be that you're just picking up on this. They're trying to start race hatred again. There's even a channel, I guess on CNN, there are openly racist commentators, and they're saying openly racist things about white people. Very incendiary, terrible things. Is there rage? Are they trying to foment rage to start an incident? I'm pretty sure they are. And somebody is. Yeah. Yeah, I feel more safe in the woods with even with the wild animals around. Yeah, me too. Right. Oh, you've got a psychotherapist trained in many techniques. Good for you. And Palmer says, I shall return to the woods and disappear. Sometimes that's why I want my eco village. I want it to be surrounded with woods. I want it to be somewhere way out in the woods where we can just be alone with nature. We a lot of the time. I mean, I not entirely alone. I want to be close enough I can drive somewhere if I want to go see something, but I want to be far enough that I can see the sky and that I can be in the woods and not be bothered. Well, yeah, soul contracts, YJ. YJ mentioned soul contracts. Yes, there are. And actually, Gemini Moon and I were talking about this. Says that she has another group she goes to that is a very metaphysical topic group that uh, the leader of the group said that sometimes to come in, you have to make a contract to come into this place to do our work. And they handicap us. Now, I remember this. I also was forced to take handicaps. We're all forced to take handicaps coming in here because they're afraid that we would do too much good. See, we're very powerful. If they don't give us handicaps, we could just blow the whole thing to hell. Blow them all back to hell. Blow everything right back to hell where it started. So they have to handicap us and they feel that they can slow us down or stop us this way. And of course, it's usually with things like physical ailments, life situations, things like you're going to be in pain. And you negotiate this before you come into this world because they are the gatekeepers many times. Those of us who came here with a mission, we make a contract when we come in. You'll have lifelong pain, might be one of them. We were talking about this. It's some people will have a demon attached to them their whole life. And in that group, uh, every single time the demon changes, every single time. Eventually, the demon jumps ship. So far. So, um, a lot of people, once the demon sees the other side of life, they're like, oh, hell, I don't want to be a demon anymore. This sucks. um, Maybe that's part of it. Some of them might be recalcitrant. I don't know. I'm not going to argue one way or the other. If you know of something different that happened, I won't argue with you. But I know quite a few stories about how by the time it leaves you, it's changed. We do have a tendency to change everything that we're around. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Bomber, is we are breaking free of it. We're getting out of it. And that's why we're replaying it. Unfortunately, it's going to hurt as much as it happened the first time. Yeah. You've always taken your kids seriously. Right. Now you take your kids seriously. Ann Palmer was married on Halloween afternoon. Well, good for you. Yeah, I think they want a civil war. They really want it bad. They want it really, really, really bad. Yeah. Yes. Sometimes they are. I believe so, YJ. That also intended to be the catalyst for other people's contracts, karma to play out, and an example that you can live through these things. A lot of ascended masters go through a hell of a lot before they ascend. For instance, a lot of stories about the wounded healer and the healed healer. So people who are meant to be healers will often be wounded, will often be very sick themselves, and will have to heal. And it's part of the deal. It's part of the deal. So, interestingly enough, yes. Um, who breaks the cycle of abuse? Yes, very good for you. Uh, Generational abuse, yes, you can heal generational curses and stuff too. That can happen. Yes. Well, we all do our best. I'm pretty sure that most of you have experiences that are not unlike mine. One of the reasons I'm bringing this up is to be kind of cathartic. Maybe you will feel safe enough here then to talk about what happened to you. Because once again, as I say, we honor experiencers here. We don't judge. We don't judge them if we can help it. Um, we try not to. Sometimes it's hard though. Anyway, at this time, I would say there's a lot going on. There's a lot on the table. We only have a few days before we vote. I know something's trying to stir up a problem, civil war, some kind of reason to delay, some kind of reason to call it off, some kind of reason, some kind of emergency, some kind of something is going to try to happen. Don't fall prey to it. And we got to be on our guard. I advise that you send back out peaceful vibrations as much as possible. That when you run into that, and that you just maybe, if we meditate, or just meditate on what we want to have, on what we desire to have happen, instead of that, not even give it that much, but just meditate on what we desire to have happen, because that's a sort of a resistance anyway. Maybe we should just think about what we want to see happen, because we are creators. So instead of thinking about how do we stop this, we think about we want it to be this way. We want it to turn out this way. Okay, that's my advice on that. Yes, there is plenty of help out there and here and everywhere. I hope you are finding some help here on my channel. Oh, the bots found us. Oh dear. Yeah, well, the bots have been here before. Oh yeah, the bots have left all kinds of comments and stuff. Anyway, I have to go back and delete them. And by the way, you're allowed to delete them. Mods. So really, I'm hoping that by relating this, that you're able to relate to it, and maybe feel a little bit better about the crap you've had to wade through in your life. I mean, there's been some pretty scary stuff that's happened in my life. Stuff that would probably send most people up, into the shrink's office for life. But I haven't even barely touched the surface of it. I am going to go more into depths. I'm thinking of making these little more bite-sized stories and put a little background with it, and making it like a short story form, and something like that. But when I started, when I had my near-death experience, I related that whole experience. I had a lot of things happen after that, though. I mean, I had weird stuff happen after. It got even weirder. My life got even weirder after I revived, and more painful. That was when the pain came that I couldn't ever entirely get rid of. Never entirely recovered from that accident. I'm only just now managing to recover somewhat from that accident. So, but that was a fated accident. That was obviously a contract, what we call a contract. That had to happen. It slowed me down some. A lot of the chances that I had in this life I didn't take because of that disability that resulted, mental and as well as physical. It did leave its mark on me, um, because I had to deal with like every kind of fear. But well, another one I could mention was I think I did mention, yes, I did tell the story one time about how I was driving home from watching the sunset and drove through a fog down this one particular road in the valley. And after I drove through that fog, it took me somehow hours to get home. And I was terrified of that road forevermore. Terrified of it. Had to explain to my husband, then my husband, why I was home so late in the morning. It was early in the morning instead of just after sunset. What was I out doing all that time? Yeah, I didn't know. I drove through a fog. Well, it didn't take that long to drive through a fog, no. As a matter of fact, I was trying to take the short way home. Uh, Later on, one of my friends decided to drive down that road and look at it psychically, and she said she saw spirits everywhere. And she said to her it almost looked like they were like paper dolls, just touching each other, even just like spread out all over the place. And it was a pretty eerie area. Um, and you can refer to one of my earlier shows for that, but I'll probably tell the story in a little bit different way and put some pictures with it to help. But later on, we found that for a little while, Jeffrey Dahmer was staying in that area. He had relatives in that area and would visit from time to time. Was I picking that vibe up? I don't know. Was that the vibe we were picking up there? I don't know. I don't know. Can't prove it one way or the other. Found out later we were employing one of his cousins when we had a business of our own. We found out one of his relatives was taking off, leaving, exit stage left, because he knew that sooner or later the press would find out he was related and that some stuff had happened in Ohio, and he wanted to take off before it happened because he didn't want all that press and he didn't want to have to talk to them about it. So he took off, and he told us this was why he was taken off. But he didn't say Jeffrey Dahmer. What he said is something happened with one of my cousins, and it's very bad. It's going to be on the news soon. It's going to be all over the news. I don't want to have to deal with the press. They're going to find out he's related to me. They're going to find out that he visited this area. I don't want to be around for it. I don't want to answer any questions. I don't want to be hounded about it. And I know that's going to happen if I stay. So I got to leave. Next thing that happened, the Jeffrey Dahmer stuff came out. That's how really ironic my life has been. Um, when we found that, when that happened, it's like, wow, do you think that was it? It's like, yeah, that was probably it. I have wondered that. Why are some areas more prone to hang on to negative energies? Is there a black hole just drawing more and more in? Some things are like that. Some areas are like that. And um, a lot of them I have noticed, a lot of times they are in an auspicious place, uh, on a ley line, on a Um, Nexus, which is where two or more lines cross. A lot of times they're on a place like that, or on a place where something really, really bad happened. If it's a negative thing, a lot of times it's a place where something horrific happened in the past. Like there are places where people see soldiers where a battle was fought. Um, these places get haunted because there was a lot of energy released there. And we don't know what kind of energy. We have not been told the truth about our past. So it's very hard for us to know what kind of things went on in our areas for sure in the past that could have caused this. Really hard to know. The Indians usually would know. They would say, don't go there. Of course, the white women didn't listen and they would go there anyway, right? And there were movies made about that. But yeah, I mean, there are areas that are just bad. And sometimes the native people would know and try to warn people, and they wouldn't go there. And there's a reason they wouldn't go there. It's you don't want to go there. And pretty bad stuff can happen there. And I guess that would be somewhere like a Skinwalker Ranch, maybe. I don't know. Oh, all the not trained to heal us doctors. Oh, yes. Isn't that just wonderful that we have those? Oh, dear. Yeah. Everything is energy. And we can change things by altering the energy. Um, I cannot guarantee it. I can just say what I have observed. When I had to cross over about 35, 40 people, there was a spirit there that was very angry. He seemed to be holding them there. They all, though, had the impression that they all were there for a different reason, stuck for a different reason. They either thought they were going to be punished, or sometimes they were waiting for somebody and nobody ever came, or they were, one little girl was waiting for her parents who never came to get her, and, all kinds of things happened. I mean, I ran into a whole batch of them. I crossed over. I probably ruined somebody's show that day. Somebody who wanted to go there and get spirits, whoever wanted to go there and get all the spirits, I probably ruined it because I cleared the place. Yeah, I crossed them over. Because you know what? What I really, really can't, what really sticks in the craw sometimes is these people that just go there and promise that they're going to help whatever the entity is and do actually get in touch with an entity, a being, a person who has crossed over, and then just leave them there to suffer. Just leave them there. How awful. Monsters they are themselves monsters in that regard. How can you just find a situation like that and just leave them there if they want help? Um, but that's me. So I found out about one of them, and I just cleared the place. And I found out about the old Civic Theater was haunted too. One of my friends ended up clearing that place. So I could tell you about. Oh, that's right. I could tell you about the hauntings in the Civic Theater. Now, I have told you before that Akron has an underground city. Akron has a whole underground area, layers and layers, and canals. It's very, all this Tartarian stuff is there, all this mud flood evidence of the buildings. I mean, the buildings are obviously mud flooded. They have levels that are closed off because of the mud flood, and all that stuff exists. It's definitely. And then the Akron underground area, and I'm sure that all these underground areas were not done modernly. Like I said, Ohio Edison, when you look at that, that looks very, 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 very old. I mean, the brickwork is very dark, like it's been singed. Um, Possibly the water was the thing that saved it from being melted. I don't know. But that doesn't look like it was modernly built. It has, sure, Tartarian looking, what we call Tartarian. It's just the old world. Um, the one that they've hidden from us. So, yeah, we don't know what happened in that world. We don't know what happened in certain areas in that world. Maybe something pretty horrific. And it could have left the vibration for a long time. I mean, think about it. And I got a picture in my mind when I was trying to explain it one time of think about a really, really, really long metal strip and think about that as being time. And really, it goes out in all directions. But for right now, since we tend to think of time as being linear, think of it as a really, really long strip. And think of it as this big hammer comes down and goes bang, right, on this metal strip. And the sound and the vibration ripples out throughout the length of that strip of metal. What if it's like that? The vibration of some major impact ripples out in all directions. And then there's always a reaction to it. There's an action, there's a reaction. Maybe it's a drawing in reaction. I don't know. Or maybe the initial action was pushing out. Gypsy Cemetery in Indiana. Have to look at that. Black Dragon lives near Kirsch Cemetery. Oh, wonderful. That's just great. And have never felt anything bad from it. But it's a cursed cemetery. Gypsy Cemetery. Well, I don't know. Sometimes I think they give it this name for a different reason, just to keep people the heck out. Interesting. That happened to me once. That happened to me once. Some kind of thing we were doing in Sunday school. Oh, yeah. It was my birthday cupcake, the candle. And this was before they had the candles that lit back up. It's lit right back up. And my friend saw it and I said, well, that was weird, wasn't it? And she's just looking at it going, yeah, but we're in church. We can't say much. So I don't know what happened there. But yeah, I don't know what happened there. It was out and then it just lit back up as I was walking with it. So maybe it was the area I walked through. I don't know what happened. Maybe the air blew it and fanned it back up again. I don't know what happened. It was weird though. It made me feel weird. Anyway, um, that's another thing. The Standby Auditorium was weird. The Standby Auditorium was Tartarian, and I mean, it was obviously. We played there. It had the great big block work and everything. It was obviously. I mean, you go in there, this isn't something modernly made. I always got that feeling from the place, and that's where she held it. She wouldn't let people, Catherine wouldn't let them build a church with the money. She had the money go to people who needed it. She said she didn't need a church. She could just rent a place like the Standby Auditorium and have the stuff there. Why build a church is what she thought. A church is really people. Her church was really the people. So she didn't have an actual church that was hers, but we used that place, and oddly enough, Tartarian music. Yeah, that's pretty wild. I don't know what mine was about, but I think that probably that one was some kind of phenomena. Yeah, some kind of phenomena. Oh, look who's joined us. Mr. Handsome. Hello, cowboy. Are you deigning to join us this evening? Are you just going to be a handsome fellow, or are you going to? No, he wants extra treats. He's going to have a speaking part tonight. Hello, baby. You're going to look up at people and show them how beautiful you are. You are such a handsome boy. Everybody says so. Everybody says you are a handsome kitty cat. Well, you just got lonely? Wanted to say hi to everybody? Is that it? Want to sit up on your chair? I'm down to 20%, people. If the phone goes out, um, if the phone goes, I can move. I could get up and lose the ambience and go into my room and just kind of try and not. I guess I will start now, blowing out the candle and whatever. And try not to get the wax all over everything like last time. And start heading to my room and plug in so that we can keep talking, because I don't have any particular desire for us to stop because we're having too much fun. Say hi to the clown, who's obviously a Biden voter right there. Sheehan, he says go Biden. See, definitely a Biden voter. Okay, so I got political. So does anybody really like what's going on in the government right now? If you do, why? Explain it to me, please. What kind of mental illness do you have to think everything's fine? Uh, that's my question. How crazy do you have to be to think everything's just hunky dory in this country right now, and that this guy is doing a good job? Such a good job. He's the guy you want. A freaking clown world. I'm sorry, it is Clown World. It is Clown World. Clown World. Can't see a dang thing. It's probably because the light's not on. Hang on. Camera's switching around. Oh my goodness. We're having fun here. Let's see if I can get the light from here. There. Oh, meow. Okay. Cowboy is deemed to be up here with us. He's going to be our mascot here on out for the time being. Meow. Why are you showing me your butt? I don't want to see your butt. I want to see your face. People want to see your face. Okay, that's better. Thank you. There you go. Why do you think people want to see your back, huh? Want to see your handsome face. One thing about it though, this cat, gotta appreciate it. I have no idea what his anus looks like because he never ever shows it. You gotta love that. His tail, his what little tiny bit of a tail, his one little bone, his one little backbone there is covering his tail. Covering her tail is covering his butt. So Cowboy says, cover your butt. Everything is fine. Under this rock, I'm being. You're funny, YJ. Everything is fine. I'm bleeding to death, but I'm fine. I'm not, but I mean, that's what the country is. You know, Montreal, it's interesting. We have that in Cleveland, Bomber. Cleveland. Uh, yeah, Tower City is like that. Now he's going to turn around and get into the position to get his belly rubbed like this. He's back in his belly. He hasn't really done quite the full belly rub position yet, but he probably will before it's all over. Oh, slow charging. Now cut that out. As long as you're charging, we might go off. If I go off, it's not intentional. It's all fine under this rock here.